It began with thunderous artillery and ended in silence, save for the wind sweeping through the rubble of a dead city. In the winter of 1942, Stalingrad ceased to be a place. It became a furnace of steel and blood, where frostbitten men killed for warmth, civilians froze beside empty hearths, and entire armies were ground into dust. The German Sixth Army had come to take a name on a map. What they found was a street-by-street nightmare, a city that refused to die, and an enemy that fought not for land, but for survival. What followed was not a battle. It was a descent into starvation, madness, cannibalism, and collapse. This is the true story of Stalingrad, told without illusion and stripped of glory. Stalingrad was not a conventional battlefield. It was a shattered urban hellscape where buildings were bombed into rubble and then fought over room by room. Control over a single house could change hands multiple times a day. The central railway station, for example, reportedly changed possession 13 times in just 24 hours. Both German and Soviet soldiers fought fanatically for every inch of ground. The Soviets employed a strategy called hugging the enemy, staying so close to German troops that artillery and air support became ineffective for fear of friendly fire. In some buildings, Germans occupied one floor, Soviets another, and more Germans yet below them. Soldiers fought through sewers, cellars, and destroyed staircases, using whatever weapons they could: bayonets, spades, grenades, flamethrowers, and submachine guns like the Soviet PPSH-41, which became iconic for its reliability in close-quarters combat. Night raids were constant. Assault squads of 5 to 10 men infiltrated enemy-held ruins, often engaging in hand-to-hand combat. Tunnels were dug beneath buildings and packed with explosives to destroy fortified positions reminiscent of World War I. Snipers thrived in the shattered landscape. Soviet marksmen, like the famed Vasily Zaitsev, tallied hundreds of kills while engaging in legendary sniper duels. The ruined city provided near-endless hiding spots for ambushes and booby traps. As winter set in, temperatures plummeted below -30 degrees Celsius. The cold became deadlier than bullets. German troops, under-equipped and starving, began to die in vast numbers from frostbite and exposure. Daily bread rations fell from 300 grams to just 100, roughly 2 slices, and even that was mostly sawdust. Horses were eaten, followed by dogs, rats, and eventually even leather belts. When all else was gone, many turned to something even darker. Though unspeakable, first-hand accounts confirm that cannibalism occurred among the most desperate. Medical supplies had long run out. Injuries meant slow, agonizing death. Operations were performed without anesthesia. Typhus swept through the trenches, adding to the already staggering death toll. German soldiers wrote in their diaries that they felt they were turning into animals. Despite the hopelessness, surrender remained forbidden. Hitler himself reminded General Friedrich Paulus that no German field marshal had ever capitulated. As discipline crumbled, incidents of suicide, insubordination, and collapse multiplied. Morale was non-existent. Meanwhile, Soviet civilians who had failed to evacuate endured the same suffering: bombings, starvation, and bitter cold. Around 40,000 perished. Many women disguised themselves as men in desperate attempts to avoid abuse. Stepping outside to fetch water or food could mean instant death from shell fire or sniper bullets. In January 1943, the Red Army launched Operation Ring, systematically destroying the shrinking German defensive pockets. The Luftwaffe could no longer supply the Sixth Army by air. Ammunition ran out, fuel was gone, the last functioning airstrip had been abandoned. Encircled and dying, General Paulus finally surrendered on January 31st, disobeying Hitler's direct orders. He became the first German field marshal ever captured alive. Of the original 300,000 Axis soldiers at Stalingrad, only around 90,000 remained, and few were fit to fight. Soviet troops, upon seeing the survivors, were shocked by their skeletal frames, filthy uniforms, and hollow eyes. But hatred lingered, and mercy was in short supply. The suffering didn't end with surrender. The 91,000 German prisoners were marched through the snow with little food or shelter. Those who collapsed were executed or left behind. Most would never reach the prison camps. Of the 91,000, only about 5,000 survived and returned to Germany, and not until 11 years after the war had ended. The Soviets used the prisoners to rebuild what the German invasion had destroyed. Labor camps, mines, and factories became their new battlefields. As one Soviet official reportedly put it, they would repay their debt in sweat. The Battle of Stalingrad marked the first major turning point in World War II and the symbolic collapse of Hitler's Eastern ambitions. It was not just a military defeat, but a human catastrophe of unparalleled scale. Soldiers starved, froze, and died by the tens of thousands. Civilians endured unimaginable suffering, and for those who survived, the trauma would last a lifetime. The legacy of Stalingrad is not only strategic, but profoundly human. It stands as a grim reminder of what happens when war consumes not just cities and armies, but hope, morality, and life itself.